From Texas, Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In my opening remarks, I mentioned that Title 31 gives the GAO authority to audit the Fed, except in the final conclusion, they exempt the Federal Reserve and the FDIC and the Comptroller of the Currency, so there is no authority. If Congress ever wants to know what's going on, we'd have to change the code. For instance, right now, I think it would be important for us to know what our monetary authorities are thinking about and talking about and planning internationally, because this system isn't working and a new system is going to be devised, and I'm sure it's been discussed. I'd like to know if there's plans for another pseudo-Bretton Woods agreement. It's very, very important to us. It's important to our sovereignty. It's important to our well-being, but we don't even have the right to know that as members of Congress. In Section 13.3, it gives you the authority, and you cite the authority to make loans and bail out individuals, partnerships, and corporations. And it hasn't been used much, but it's there, and that, again, is congressional responsibility. But, you know, transparency is one thing, and I want that because I think it would expose the system to how it operates. But there's more to it than that. To me, it's the power. It's the power and the authority that gravitates into the hands of a small group of people who can create money out of thin air. This is an ominous power. It is the most powerful tool for central economic planning around. And that really has to be the issue as much as transparency. Once you have this power to control money and credit, and central plan, you can distort contracts. So we're talking about distorting contracts, rewriting contracts when we get involved in these bailouts like we have been. But, you know, Chairman, you have written a lot about the Depression, and, of course, there was a famous quote that you made once to Milton Friedman about apologizing about the Federal Reserve bringing on and creating and prolonging the Depression, but you assured him it wouldn't happen again. And, you know, the free market people agree with you entirely. The Federal Reserve is responsible. But the irony of all this, and the key to this discussion has to be, was it too much credit in the 20s that created the conditions that demanded a recession, depression, or was it lack of credit in the Depression that caused the prolongation? And that is the debate. Obviously, the free market people say the Fed brought it on by too much credit in the beginning. But the question I have is the adjustment of real value assets. The Federal Reserve brings on these crises by interfering with the cost of money and through interest rates and the supply of money. But here we're working frantically to keep prices up. Housing prices have to be up. We have to stimulate housing. To me, from a free market perspective, we're doing exactly the opposite of what we should do. The prices of houses should drop. We have 19 million unoccupied houses. Now, why should we as in Congress stimulate housing? So what is so terribly wrong with the market that's dictating this? We're frantic today. We're offering a new $1.5 billion program to buy up toxic assets, and that is propping up prices. That's illiquid. They're worthless. Let's get rid of them. Get it over with. Get the pain and suffering behind us. How long are we going to be locked in this idea that we have to be involved in this price fixing? What's wrong with allowing the market to allow these prices to adjust and go down quickly so we can all go back to work again?
Congressman, that was very interesting. Could I respond to a couple of points you made? First of all, on the Great Depression, Milton Friedman's view was that the cause was the failure of the Federal Reserve to avoid excessively tight monetary policy in the early 30s. That was Friedman and Schwartz's famous book. And with that lesson in mind, the Federal Reserve has reacted very aggressively to cut interest rates in this current crisis. And moreover, we've also tried to avoid the collapse of the banking system, which was another reason for the Depression in the 1930s. On prices of housing and the like, we're not trying to prop up the price of housing. What we're trying to do is get the credit markets working again so that the free market can begin to function in a normal way instead of in this seized-up way in which it's currently acting. And finally, on price fixing of so-called toxic or legacy assets, the plan that Secretary Geithner described this morning would have, as an important component, private asset managers making purchases based on their own profit-maximizing analysis. So that would be true market prices that would free up what is now a frozen market and get transactions flowing again and should restore real price discovery to those markets.
But so far, every one of these suggestions over the past year was more money, more credit, more government involvement. nothing seems to be working. Even today, the markets weren't very happy with these announcements. I think the market is still pretty powerful.